fear, with each side simply reciting talking points and trying to score political points. Instead, I ask members of both parties to seek common ground in an effort to solve a problem that's been with us for generations.
But I think the fundamental point I want to make is the arrogance of all of this. You know, they are saying ignore the wishes of the American people. We know more about this than you do, and we're going to jam it down your throats no matter what.
The back and forth ahead of the big White House bipartisan meeting this Thursday as the president unveiled his own health care plan. Largely the Senate bill is many of the aspects in it. The most controversial provision would give the federal government more power to block rate hikes by insurance companies that are considered excessive. But here's the deal. The White House says it'll cost about $1 trillion over 10 years, but it will not be scored by the Congressional Budget Office. Here's why. The Congressional Budget Office blog says preparing a cost estimate requires very detailed specifications of numerous provisions, and the materials that were released this morning by the White House do not provide sufficient detail on all of the provisions. Therefore, the Congressional Budget Office cannot provide a cost estimate for the proposal without additional detail. Where are we with all of this? Let's bring in our panel. Fred Barnes, executive editor of the Weekly Standard. Nina Easton, columnist for Time and Fortune magazines, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. Charles.
Well, the plan that the administration unveiled today is really a travesty masquerading as an outreach to the Republicans. It looks at first of all, it has nothing about tort reform, which is a very important element. We know why. Howard Dean himself has said that the Democrats don't want to anger the trial lawyers. And tort reform has been estimated by the Massachusetts Medical Society that doctors who practice defensive medicine, a quarter of all tests and procedures and referrals.
Although the president, or the White House says the president's anxious to talk about that, so perhaps it'll be on the table.
If you have a 2,600-page bill with nothing in it on tort reform, you're not serious about real reform. This is a partisan attempt from the start. Secondly, there's nothing about nationalizing the market and purchasing health insurance across state lines. What the president does here is he tries to reconcile House and Senate, but he does it by throwing money at every difference. For example, the Nebraska kickback, which is a federal giveaway on Medicaid that was only for Nebraska, every state now has it. The union cutout, which was the unions being exempt from the tax on the Cadillac plans until 2018, everybody has it. Higher subsidies for those who are forced into purchasing health insurance. All of this is going to cost, and you said it would. The estimate in the White House is it's going to cost $200 million. That is a billion. That is a vast underestimate, and it's added onto a Senate bill which is $850, which in and of itself is a huge underestimate because it only counts the second half of this decade. It's twice that. In effect, what you have here is a $2 trillion expenditure at a time when the president is hypocritically calling for deficit reduction. Republicans ought to announce that they're not going to allow anybody to be appointed from the Republican side on that commission because it is entirely a farce.
Nina.
Well, I thought